Right, this is going to be a complicated video, video composition, because I'm going to use about 8 videos, 2 PDFs, 4 graphics, and a couple of websites, right? And all because this idiot, Darth Dawkins, this freaking clown, mentioned something about punctuated equilibrium on another video, not this one, on another video, right? And it pisses me off, right? Because he's talking out of his rear, right, without any knowledge whatsoever. And I had to research it because I did not know, but at least I tried to find out if this guy Darth Dawkins knows what he's talking about, and he doesn't fucking know what I'm talking about, right? He's absolutely deceitful, right? And he changes to suit his needs. Okay, so before I actually start with the composition of the video, I have to give a great thanks to Darth Dawkins Debunked, because without him I could not get the clips that I wanted, because he's got a massive database whereby if I ask him for a particular thing on a particular subject, that Darth Dawkins, he can actually pull it out. That's amazing, so thank you for that. Right, so I want to establish something here before I carry on, is that Darth Dawkins is a young Earth creationist, okay? And this video, which is not relevant to the actual conversation that he had, basically established that, because the rest of the video, it actually contradicts what this idiot is saying here, right? So let us establish that Darth Dawkins is a young Earth creationist. I'm going to play the video.
I'm waiting, Meme. Are you done?
No, I wasn't saying anything. She was which I appreciate, but I was. Yeah, go
Are you
ahead.
done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Once you reject the literalness of Genesis, okay, all of the rest of the Bible is built foundationally on the Genesis account.
So basically what he's saying here is that if the Bible is not young Earth creationist, then the Bible is not true. By definition, Genesis, the account of Genesis has to be true. So it stands to reason that Darth Dawkins will try to fight his best to establish that the Earth was young, right? Now, he can say whatever the fuck he wants, but he's wrong. Okay, now he has mentioned 2 scientists. One is Dr. Eugene V. Koonin, which he's a microbiologist. Sorry, I'm reading it down. And also Dr. Stephen Jay Gould, right? He's a paleontologist, right? And also a evolutionary biologist as well, right? So this guy has written, he's dead now, right? So rest in peace. But he has written a hell of a lot about the subject matter. And what I got makes Darth Dawkins a fool. Okay, so let's start with him, with Dr. Stephen Jay Gould.
Since Darwin's theory of evolution, it has been widely held that living organisms progress over time. But in his new book, Full House, renowned paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould challenges this fundamental view. He argues that variety, rather than progress, is the reality of our evolution. Professor of geology at Harvard, Gould has written 15 books and over 200 essays, and I am very happy to have him back on this broadcast. Welcome back.
Happy to be here again.
All right, evolution. My idea is that evolution is about progress. It is about survival of the fittest. It is about generation after generation getting better and more, achieving more perfectionism.
The standard misconception, which is imposed by deep biases of Western culture. Darwin, in fact, never said that. He recognized as one of the radical claims he was making that there was nothing in his mechanism of natural selection that led to any belief in progress, because natural selection is just a principle of adaptation to changing local environments. You improve only in the sense that you get better for your local environment, right. But your local environment may be to be a parasite in the inside of another organism, in which case simplification is going to do you well. So there's many environments in which simplicity is valued and confers just as much adaptive advantage as complexity in other environments. Therefore, there's no general trend in the history of life. The dominant forms of life on Earth are bacterial, always have been. This is a bacterial world. It's not a human world.
Age of bacteria.
It's always been the age of bacteria. Life started 3.5 billion years ago with bacteria, and they've dominated ever since.
And the reason because it's the age of bacteria is because they dominate. They survive, they dominate, they have more what?
They have more of everything. They live in a broader range of environments. They live at several hundred degrees centigrade where water's coming out of superheated waters coming out of cracks in the Earth's surface. They live up to 10 miles down under the Earth where little holes in rocks where water percolates through. There are more E. coli cells in the gut of every human being on Earth today than there have ever been human beings on Earth. Bacteria have dominated for 3.5 billion years. They were in the beginning, are now, and will be till the sun explodes, the dominant creatures on Earth. And if this recent report on Martian life is true, I'm not betting on it, but it's a plausible case because Mars had running water.
Because they found bacteria.
Well, Mars had running water early in its history, and the Earth, under similar conditions, did evolve life of bacterial grade. So if that's true, bacterial domination is interplanetary, if not universal, and I don't see little green men everywhere. No, we have a false view because we take a very parochial peek at the most complex thing through time. It's true the most complex organism has gotten more complex. Once there were only bacteria, now there are people. But if you look at the full range, the full house of my title, of life's diversity, what you see is that bacteria have always dominated throughout the history of life.
In this part of the video, Darth Dawkins is going to be talking about Charles Darwin and also about the punctuated equilibrium. So this is the actual video itself, and it's really fucking silly what Darth Dawkins is saying.
Look, the biggest factor more than anything else that have led people to adopt hook, line, and sinker the theory of evolution are not the arguments for evolution themselves. It is the fact that the theory of evolution is held dogmatically and in wide consensus. This is the number one intimidating factor.
For me, it's the fact that we can see it in different species, how they need to evolve to survive in their environment.
No, sir,
Stop.
Okay, stop with that claptrap. When you said we see, okay, you don't see it. That is an extrapolated conjecture.
Well, actually, we do. Well, not we, because I don't study the field, right? But the people that say we do, they do it in a genetic level, in a really low down point of view. But that's not the whole fucking point. The point is that we can use exactly the same thing as his imaginary friend, right? Everything in the Bible is conjecture at the end of the day. So it's the same shit, right? But his one has to imagine it. We can find out. That's a big fucking difference.
That you're pretending is in the sense datum.
What? Pretending is in the sense datum. You mean you imagining it? That's what he's saying. Nonsense.
One of the kind of
Hold on 1 second. I have to switch. Hold on.
Sure.
Mother's calling.
I'll be with you in a second.
Gary.
I think one of the bait and switches that I hear atheists talk about is they'll talk about speciation. Okay, we're talking microevolution, which is incremental mutations and stuff that you see from like insertions and point mutations and things like that, which does happen.
So it happens on a lower scale, but you, Prophet, you don't have the fucking brain capacity to think that it happens in millions of fucking of years. Are you saying that? You ignorant sod.
You see that with dog breeding. You know, people breeding different types of animals or dogs. You know, you get all these where you have a Canis lupus or something. You'll have like an original.
He's talking about fucking dogs, right? The world does not evolve on fucking dogs, right? It's a huge amount of fucking species, and he's talking about dogs, something from the present, something that we can actually observe within 10 or 15 years or 20, 40 years, that you can actually see the transition between one type of dog to another race, right? But this guy is fucking dishonest. He's not talking about the millions of years. He's just talking about fucking particular race type of dog.
Wolf. which contains all the genetic, which contains most of the genetic information, and then you end up
and potential for variation.
Exactly, and through degradative mutations in selection.
No, he's talking a fucking out of his ass. It's not degradation per se. It just changes.
I mean, this goes to like Mendel, of dominant and recessive traits, right?
But here's the thing: is this isn't true of all animal species. It just happens that certain things, especially given human selection.
No, bullshit. He says not all animals change. That's bullshit, right? Throughout the history, animals or any living thing has to change if the environment changes, right? It may not have changed, or for example, like Stephen Jay Gould said about the bacteria, right? They don't need to change because they have they probably adapted to change, because if they go a few miles down in the sea or in high temperatures, right? So the two species cannot interact with each other. Both of them are bacteria, but they cannot coexist, right? With the same with this, they are not talking about millions of years, and that is their problem. The span of time
can be very plastic in terms of size, musculature.
Right. The other idiot was talking about dogs, and this guy, Darth Dawkins, is talking about humans. The different colors, skin, whatever, or hair type, or colors of the eyes. That's the dishonesty of this guy.
Color, hair length, things like that.
Wow.
But this is not producing all new complex anatomy and physiology.
No, because that is not what it's all about. It's about gene level.
Okay, sir, what did the other person want to say?
Yeah, let's hear the guy
Jib?
who was saying.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I was saying, how do you?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. I was saying essentially how animals adapt into their environment.
Right.
Like camels are a good example. How they need to adapt for the environment, so they have all the water in their homes.
What does it? Okay, that's begging the question right there. You're already packing into it evolutionary assumption.
Shit. If the camel did not start like that, and now the camel needs to hold water to survive, what do you call that? Begging the question. What a dishonest piece of shit you are.
You see the brainwashing here? You see, when you're taught evolution in school, they pre-package into it a number of a priori assumptions.
Listen, whatever he says, think about Christianity, think about religion. A pre-package of ideas, dogmatic ideas, right, that it cannot be proven, right? It cannot even be, they don't even want to challenge it, right? They're always trying to accuse the other person of doing, you know what I mean, shifting the burden of proof or whatever. But this guy is master dishonest.
Which guarantee evolution is true to begin with. Okay? You listen, let me ask you this question.
Go on.
Do you think natural selection is the mechanism that produced biological evolution?
You heard that?
Sounds about right.
No, that's because they didn't properly teach you correctly.
Let me show you Charles Darwin thingy, right? There you are. Right, the origin of species. Right, so according to Darth Dawkins, the origin of species, it is not by means of natural selection. It is not, according to Darth Dawkins. That's what he's saying. Yeah? The origin of species is not by means of natural selection. So Darth Dawkins is the new expert in evolution. Nice. Carry on.
Natural selection is only preservative, not creative.
I'd rather just talk about the animals.
Preservative, not creative. I don't know what the fuck he said, right? But we know that he's specializing on talking bullshit, right?
So, like we have.
Did you hear? Okay, sir, listen to me.
Hyenas or something.
Hold on a second.
Right, because the kid did not understand it, and he says, "I want to talk about hyenas," but Darth Dawkins got him. right? Because he doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't understand. But Darth Dawkins, being the dishonest piece of shit he is going to grab him by that.
Hold on a
Pups
second.
look like leopards.
Hold on a second.
Go on.
Hold on a second. I don't want to discourage you from speaking your mind,
Bullshit.
but I think you should just listen just a wee bit more, okay?
To who? You're not a fucking expert, right? You've never done a fucking class on biology, on sociology, on any of the fucking... You haven't. So you have got no knowledge. You may have read one book or two books from probably Van Til, yeah, and the other idiot, right, Greg Bunsen. But that's it.
People are programmed natural selection as though that's evolution. Do you know that creationists and intelligent design advocates all accept natural selection, but they don't accept evolution?
What is natural selection? Natural selection is selecting somebody, being you. What is natural selection? Right? And what imposes the natural selection? What is happening when natural selection gets activated? What is it? That is evolution, you idiot.
Natural selection is not the same thing as Darwinian evolution.
Let me put the page up again. Natural selection is not Darwinian evolution, right? Not by this guy. Natural selection, it is not. Let's hear the expert.
Okay, but natural selection is used as a kind of shorthand for Darwinian or the neo-Darwinian synthesis.
You just said the same fucking thing.
Natural selection just simply means is that the offspring and reproduction that is more fit in an environment will live on to reproduce another day. That is only preservative. That is not creative, sir.
So a pair of whatever does not create an offspring. So what the fuck creating means to you? And preserving, it means preserving the race, the type of animal, microorganism or whatever. Talking nonsense.
In order for evolution to come true, you have to have an ever-increasing pool of extremely long, linear, complex, hierarchical genetic information.
That is total fucking bullshit. Right? That is bullshit. Because as we saw on the video, at the beginning of the video by Stephen Jay Gould, right? Bacteria hasn't got complexity, right? And they live from 3.5 billion years to date. Where's the increasing complexity? They don't need it. If the bacteria here, Darth Dawkins, they would be laughing their socks off. Haha, that prick. What the fuck are you saying? We've been here 3.5 billion years ago, and this idiot saying that we need a complexity.
Producing an ever-increased body plans of the animal kingdom.
Body plans? What? What do you mean?
So what is the source?
Oh, here we go. He wants to say God is the one who is the source.
Or the...
So it's not about science. It's God did it, period. And then shut up. If you are in an intelligent design school, just for argument's sake, you always ace everything. Because then you say, how this is made? Oh, God did it. Oh, wicked. Right answer. For anything. For anything. That's
the creative mechanism that produces this ever-increasing pool of genetic information.
What he's saying is that God always put the genetic information in every living organism. That's what he's saying, basically. Right? Absolutely fucking intellectually dishonest person.
What's the source of it?
Well, actually, you know what the actual source is? The actual entity, the male and female, that is the actual fucking source. As that, right? Because this source does not interact with a fucking monkey, with a fucking banana, with a whatever, right? This source recreated with the female source of this, right? And an offspring will come through it, right? And then you got the population, which is the main focus, right? Because Darth Dawkins were focusing on population, not on DNA or RNA or anything like that. He was talking about a group, a society, how they change from one location to the other, being the same animals. That is it.
You just take it for granted that beneficial mutations will happen and accumulate, and once they accumulate enough and they're fortuitous, boom, they're preserved and they reproduce.
No, it doesn't fucking work that way, you idiot. You think it's like, when they grow, when another arm comes from here, when it's long enough, I can fucking use it. That's what you're saying. Oh, when it's beneficial enough, when it's grow enough. What the fuck are you saying?
What's the observational support for that?
It's called nonsense. That's their supporting evidence. Absolute fucking nonsense from you, idiot.
I believe I was mentioning, I might have the animal mixed up. I believe it's hyena pups. When they're born, they look similar.
You see, this kid changed the conversation because he did not understand what the fuck Darth Dawkins would say. Rightly so. He said, no, let me talk about what I know.
To like leopards or like another animal within that species, so they're not hunted as often.
You're not even focusing on what I'm saying to you.
He's a condescending bastard. Sir. He knows he's a teenager. Sir.
What I'm trying to say to you, you've been brainwashed by evolutionary propaganda, right? Not that...
From an educated man that has got fuck all knowledge about biology.
Those people were trying to deceive you. They've drunk the Kool-Aid. And because of your lack of research in the area, you cannot differentiate between what is fact.
Lack of research. And this idiot has done any research, scientific research,
fact, and what is evolutionary conjecture and extrapolation
nonsense.
That's presented to you as a fact. Okay? Now, do you think that the fossil record is a powerful testimony of gradualism?
Right. He mentioned a specific word, gradualism. Right. He hasn't said to the kid, do you understand what gradualism is? Right. I've researched it. I know what he's talking about, but he says it in a way to prepare for the type of coup de grace. But he's wrong. Darth Dawkins is wrong.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Of course not. The Professor Darth Dawkins has spoken.
You see how you've been fooled? Let me read something to you.
Right, let me read something to you. What he's going to read, I'm going to pull it up for you side by side, so you know where this thing is coming from. He's going to read something from Koonin, right, which is a microbiologist, right? Yeah, let's do that. Right, so this is the actual PDF that he's going to call, and he's going to talk about gradualism, right? But it is a subject about punctuated equilibrium, taken from Dr. Stephen Jay Gould, right? And this is, so the yellow part of it is what Gary Mill says, but the green part is what he does not says. So he reads from here to here. So he reads all this, yeah, minus the green. Put attention.
Okay? This is from Dr. Eugene Koonin. And the atheists who listen to me, they're losing their minds.
Not
and
really.
I don't mean right now, but
Not
in
really.
the recent past, they lose their minds when I read. Okay? Let me just read the quote.
Yeah, read the quote. So he's... go on. I'm waiting.
This is from a book defending biological evolution by Dr. Eugene Koonin, who is a world-renowned...
He's not actually defending it. He's actually explaining how it works. He's not defending it. You don't need to defend what is already established. So let's get that clear.
Microbiologist and world-renowned expert on evolutionary biology, okay? Now, you just told me that the fossil record is an exemplar of gradualism, right? This is what you believe that you have been taught, right? The general lack of transitional forms between species in the fossil record is a constant theme in evolutionary biology. Darwin recognized this problem and traditionally interpreted it, along with paleontologists in the Darwinian tradition, as a reflection of the dramatic incompleteness of the record. However, extensive accumulation of paleontological data in the 20th century helped very little, if at all. So a different perspective emerged.
Right. These different perspectives emerge, right? The reason he didn't carry on with this, because the different perspective is trying to use it as a young Earth creation. If this did not happen for a long period of time, because we cannot see the fossil transition, right, that only emerge in certain places, is equal to young Earth creation, right? Now, he's going to jump from there to Gould and Eldridge, right? But I want to put emphasis on quantum evolution, right? This one here. So if I right click on it and say search inside bar, what is that? Reject all. Let me move the page here a little bit. Right. Here, quantum evolution is a component of George Galloyd Simpson multi-temporal theory of evolution, proposed to explain the rapid emergence of higher taxonomy groups in the fossil record. Right? Rapid emergence, the difference. According to Simpson, evolutionary rates differ from group to group, right? And even among closely related lineages. It doesn't say it stops or anything like that, right? It differs. This is the magic word here. Differs, right? Some changes quickly, some changes slowly. It differs, right? But this idiot, Darth Dawkins, does not want to mention the quotation that this gentleman Koonin say, right? He doesn't want it because it affects his line of reasoning. Right, he's intentionally deceiving the interlocutor. Right, remember he finished here, right?
Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldridge collected extensive evidence indicating that the history of the great majority of animal species, as reflected in the fossil record, represents mostly stasis. That is a virtual lack of change.
Okay.
Stasis is punctuated by sudden disappearance of species, followed by a rapid replacement of new species. The implication of this pervasive pattern, okay? What's the pervasive pattern? In other words, creatures appear abruptly, they disappear abruptly in the fossilized remains.
Yeah, but it's not appear, disappear. That is not. It doesn't work like that, right? It's not appear, disappear. It appears. What happens is that the disappearance is of the old ones, right? So the new transitions, right, is from the same species, but they have changed so much that they have changed into a new species, right? That's what's happening very fast. And then the longer transition, right? They cannot see it. Paleontologists cannot see it, right? So I'm going to. From this is basically the core subject of it, right? But this is from Stephen Jay Gould, right? But before I do that, let me put it down because let me go up because I got a couple of things to point out from. This is the book that he's talking about, right? Let me do it here. Here. This is all genetics, okay? Incredible. And Darth Dawkins say no, that's full of shit. Right here, I want to rate it. Right. This is Koonin giving a preface, right? The title of this book alludes to, he's taking it from 4 books, different books, right? Each of these books, in its own way, addresses the same overlapping subject. the interplay of randomness, chance, and regularity, the necessity in life and its evolution, right? Randomness. Okay? I made the case that various constraint randomness is at the very heart of the entire history of life. Actually, the opposite of what this fucking prick is saying, right? But let's go now to the guy that developed the concept of punctuated equilibrium, right? And see what he had to say about it.
One of the great skills that you have is, as a connector, find a detail, extrapolate it out, connect it with other things that are going on. I wondered if you could describe the process that you go through making connections by talking about the theory that you and your colleague Niles Eldredge developed in 1972, the one probably most famously attached to you, and that's punk-eek.
I don't know that has much to do with essay connections. Punctuated equilibrium more arose from a particular
dilemma. Just
dilemma.
About the process of discovery and connections leading to discovery.
That was a long time ago, and I don't even remember. I didn't know it was going to become an interesting or important notion at the time. No, we developed punctuated equilibrium because there was
Funny enough, the guy who developed it with the other scientists did not think in the 1996 that it's too irrelevant, and this prick Darth Dawkins is giving a case against it. It's fucking mental.
Paradox or a dilemma that young paleontologists who wanted to study evolution face, as Niles and I were both graduate students at Columbia. When we started talking about it, we both had spent a lot of time learning statistical methods, fancy statistical methods to study evolutionary sequences, and that's what we wanted to do. But the traditional wisdom of paleontology proclaimed that those sequences were rare to non-existent, that you would go out and what you would find are species being quite stable for a long time, and then they'd very rapidly, in a geological sense, change to something else. And that was said to be due to the imperfections of the fossil record, that evolution really was slow and gradual. The only reason it appeared that way is that 99% of all the strata are missing, and so you don't see the truly gradual transitions that actually exist. But think of the dilemma for people who want to study evolution. That argument will preserve gradualism, but it also tells you there's really nothing to study. You want to study evolution. Evolution means gradual sequences. Gradual sequences don't exist because the fossil record is so imperfect. So what do? Niles and I, who had studied evolutionary theory intensely, realized that, in fact, the proper translation of evolutionary theory's ordinary mechanism for speciation into the fossil record would lead to an expectation of long stability and geologically rapid origin of new forms. Geologically rapid can be very slow by the standards of our lives. One bedding plane in geology is usually thousands of years. Now, as soon as we realized that this pattern of stability and rapid geological transition needn't represent the imperfections of the record, but is in fact a correct prediction of what you ought to find, then we could argue that the fossil record as we see it is available for study and is not merely a record of absent information. That's really where it came from, but then people got interested in it and developed a wider set of implications.
Well, the largest implication was in the development of that theory was that the idea had been things move along slowly and surely, onward and upward. There's always progress, sort of the survival of the fittest, as Darwin said. Your whole notion, and one of the ideas that you talk about with such great passion, is that it's not necessarily the survival of the fittest, but there's a lot of luck involved, and that bad things sometimes happen to good organisms.
Well, I think you need to recognize the differences in timescales. That is the fittest in Darwin's sense, by the way, which is those that are best adapted to local conditions. After all, the morphologically degenerate parasite inside your body or our bodies is just as fit as we are to our world. So Darwinian fitness, first of all, has nothing to do with progress, but Darwinian fitness is an immediate or local concept. It doesn't accumulate over time into such patterns as increasing complexification or betterment. That is, the fish in a pond, which may be a hydrodynamic marvel of perfection and may have been there for 10 million years, knocking out species after species by virtue of its perfection of design, is still going to die if the pond dries up. So immediate local adaptations may represent a survival of the locally best fit, but the accumulation of those through time doesn't build into sensible patterns. That's where it's that translation to the larger geological time scale that engenders the lack of pattern, the randomness, the contingency, the unpredictability.
There have been a number of, not necessarily critics, but people who've been very disturbed by this whole notion that what seemed to be such a perfect system is actually not, that there's so much chance. And one critic who was sitting in a lecture you gave at Stanford a few years ago, clearly fuming quietly in the audience, harumphed away and said that, you know, your whole theory that so much luck is involved, so much chance and happenstance, leads to a kind of nihilism and despair, and no wonder people are so depressed. We aren't necessarily the be-all and end-all of natural history.
I think that's really pretty silly, because there's nothing about the factual state of the universe or the history of life that is designed in order to give either solace, moral comfort, or meaning to our lives. After all, life was here for 3.5 billion years before humans ever emerged. Humans are 250,000 years old. Why should life be constructed?
Right, okay, so life started 3.5 billion, us as humans 250,000. That in itself, without going any further, destroys the stupidity of Darth Dawkins Young Earth Creationist, that it was only 10,000 years ago, right? But I needed to show you from the fucking horse's mouth to shut the fuck up this idiot, dishonest and intellectual piece of shit garbage that is Darth Dawkins, right? That the experts are saying the opposite of what that fucking clown is saying. Let's carry on for a little bit while, yeah?
In such a way to impart meaning to us. In fact, I think Darwin's position was very similar to that. Darwin is sometimes seen as something of a moral midget for holding similar views, but that wasn't his view. His view was that we are all, as moral agents, required as human beings to find and struggle towards moral answers for ourselves. But we're not going to find them in the factual state of nature. So if you want to think nature is perfect, and that leads you to some lazy notion that maybe you can find moral meaning in nature, that's fine. Darwin's position is you might as well take a cold bath, recognize the imperfections, the uglinesses, the randomnesses, and then maybe you'll understand that you shouldn't be looking for the answer to moral questions in the factual state of nature anyway. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, now let's carry on what this idiot Darth Dawkins is talking about.
Stasis is punctuated by sudden disappearance of species, followed by a rapid replacement of new species. The implication of this pervasive pattern, okay? What's the pervasive pattern? In other words, creatures appear abruptly, they disappear abruptly in the fossilized remains. The implication of this pervasive pattern is that speciation is a rapid process.
Well, again, when he says appear abruptly and disappear abruptly, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, probably even hundreds of years, right? But we're talking about a species, and then the descendants, this one's already gone. That's what he's saying, Stephen Jay Gould, right? That's what he's saying. But this guy is thinking that tomorrow there's going to be 10,000 new species because they just change it rapidly. That's the dishonesty of this piece of shit.
Compared to the duration of stasis. So Dr. Eugene Koonin here is pointing out what is well known by paleontologists, is that the fossil record, which is supposedly representative of the tree of life, that all we have are exemplars of the tips and nodes of the tree of life, but we don't have all these intermediate forms at all.
Darth Dawkins is not paleontology, right? He's just sitting in his mother's fucking basement, yeah, talking like if he knows what the fuck he's talking about.
But they'll just point to some of the tips and nodes. They'll go, oh, Archaeopteryx, oh, Tiktaalik, and they'll say, well, these are transitional forms. Look, this is ludicrous.
You see what I mean, right? Prehistoric animals that existed before the human race. He's talking about fucking millions of fucking years, hundreds of fucking millions of years, right? In the era of the dinosaurs. See how dishonest he is.
Stephen Jay Gould. Listen,
from my understanding,
do you know who Stephen Jay Gould? Do you know who Stephen Jay Gould was?
From my understanding, he created a new branch of evolution because he said the original branch was faulty.
No, sir. No. Stephen Jay Gould, okay, didn't create a new branch. He just came up with a new sub-theory for evolution. He didn't replace evolution. He just said that it doesn't happen gradualistically. Okay, so he believes in a non-gradualistic evolution. Okay?
No, he did not say that. And you saw the video. Unfortunately, Darth Dawkins does not see what I'm showing to you guys, but side by side, right? From the fucking horse's mouth to this piece of shit human being.
Now, the point I'm trying to make to you is that you believe evolution happened, and you believe that you were given a fairly decent...
Stephen Jay Gould think that it happened. So why the hell a Young Earth Creation talk anything about, or give a quote, right, about a paleontologist? Do you understand, Darth Dawkins, what a paleontologist does? Okay? Do you understand that he's talking about fucking millions of years? He's not going to look for chicken bones, right? He's not going to look for fucking donkey bones.
Instruction in evolution, but you were convinced that the fossil record supported gradualism when some of the greatest paleontological minds, such as Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge and others, and other paleontologists all recognize the fact that the fossil record is not an exemplar of gradualism, but you thought it was. Now, how'd that happen?
There's still evolutionary scientists and stuff.
Focus on what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, focus. Focus on his ignorance.
I mean, I would rather talk than quote mining.
You're bickering with me like you're a 12-year-old. I'm talking to you like... Okay. And what's the basis for me? How am I quote mining?
Yes,
because you're quoting an atheist for no reason when we should be just discussing about the animals themselves.
Sir, okay, stop right there.
Like I was talking about.
I am done with you right now. I want you to be quiet or I'm going to server mute you. I am done with you now.
That's the intelligent part, yeah? That's intelligent design, right? Not agreeing with the other person. Is I'm going to fucking mute you. How fucking childish of it.
Now, because what you just did is I gave you a definitive quote by a staunch evolutionist, a staunch expert in evolutionary biology who recognized a truth that is well known within paleontology.
Yeah, but well known when Stephen Jay Gould said that microorganisms like bacteria started 3.5 billion years ago. What part of 3.5 billion years ago your narrow fucking dishonest piece of shit mind does not get?
And you have the balls to say I'm quote mining is because you don't like the input. Okay, goodbye. Okay, you see, this is what they do.
This is what they do. Yeah, he runs away by muting the people and throwing them away. How fucking dishonest this piece of shit is. Right, this is another part of the video where Dr. Eugene Koonin, right, microbiologist, says this about chance, right, about chance. And then I put the last video, which is Darth Dawkins talking about chance, right? So this is the actual expert, not Darth Dawkins, right, the actual expert. right? A final comment on irreducible complexity and intelligent design by showing that highly complex system actually can emerge by chance. Can emerge by chance. Right? Highly complex can emerge by chance. By chance. Right? Moreover, they are inevitable. If extremely rare, doesn't matter, in the universe, the present model sidesteps the issue of irreducibility and leaves no room whatsoever for any intelligent design. None. Zero. Zilch. Let me show this again. Highly complex system can emerge by chance. Just remember that, right? This is the expert, Eugene Koonin, right? The one Darth Dawkins mentioned. Right? Having said that, let's hear silly bollocks Darth Dawkins. Remember the word chance.
You're not addressing my question, Alex.
Maybe the question's not clear to me then.
Alex, if the chemistry in your brain was simply absolutely erratic and did not operate in some law-like way,
that's a bullshit question anyway, because he's talking about an individual. Alex Malpass, which is a professor. He's got a PhD, and this piece of shit, Darth Dawkins, has got no education. Just figure that one out as well, yeah? But also remember the word chance.
Would you be able to have rational thought?
I don't know. Possibly not.
Okay, good. So you see,
when Darth Dawkins says, okay, good, the other person is following the script when he says, okay, good.
Your claim to reasoning is contingent on the precondition of the regularity of nature. Does nature operate in a law-like way, Alex?
It seems to.
So nature, now he's talking about the whole fucking universe. Nature, does it behave in a law-like way? And Alex answered correctly, yeah, it seems to. He does. He's not going to say, yes, it does, because then it says, okay, prove it, whatever. It seems to be the case. But let's see what this prick Darth Dawkins says.
But I don't think that my reasoning...
Well, let me ask you this question. It seems to. Well, how would you be able to visually differentiate whether the consistencies that you see are the product of a law-like environment versus chance?
See? Versus chance. Eugene Koonin says chance is inevitable. Right? So Darth Dawkins is talking about an individual that something might change by chance. Right? And Eugene Koonin is talking about fucking millions of years. By a random chance or whatever, shit happens. And this guy, Darth Dawkins, is talking about a chance of an individual. Totally fucking retard.
I'm not even sure I understand what that question means.
You know what? I leave it there. But that in itself is fucking golden. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Darth Dawkins. You full of shit. Right? So I hope I put across, because it took me time to put everything together. I have omitted several other stuff because I don't want to make it any longer. But this last phrase from Alex Malpass, I think it nails it. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Darth. I'm the expert PhD and you're a fucking loser, and I don't understand your stupid questions. Because you are a fucking ignorant sod. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'll leave it there. Darth is an intellectually dishonest piece of shit. He hasn't got a fucking clue what he's saying. And I have proved beyond reasonable doubt that he's dishonest. It's simple as that. So, with that, I'll catch you later, everybody. Bye.